flow. So tag, yes, I know I get it though. Relax, yes, I've been on these people looking at me how I do it when I be consumed by the good vibes.
What's good, y'all? It's the Young Lavelle back at it with another video. About to drop some game on a very important topic that I feel can help a lot of us when it comes to walking the path, whatever said path is for you. And that's the power of momentum. So I got one of my young boys, my young homies, who basically is coming under my wing because, you know, the magnetism, the greatness, it's a vibration, and it attracts people that see that in you and want to just learn the game and learn how to emulate. It's really just self-development. You work on yourself, people see it, and they get inspired, right? So they want to come under your wing. And I got one guy who's like that, and he's having trouble finding his momentum. And I think I asked him straight up. I was like, yo, it looks like you don't want it bad enough. It looks like you don't want it bad enough, because all you have to do is string a number of days together. I know it's easier said than done, but you got to get to a point where you are fed up with just the status quo. You're fed up with how things have been going. You're fed up with how things are. And once you get a certain amount of days behind you, one day at a time, one moment at a time, one challenge at a time overcome, that momentum starts to take a life of itself, and you can kind of use that to push you forward when those weak moments come, because they are going to come. I saw him, and he was on like a couple weeks of retention, right? And he was like, yo, we're going to do this. We're going to go for the straight 30, finish the year out strong. And I'm like, yo, I'm with it. But just know you feel good right now because you're out of your house. And it's easy to say that when you don't feel the urges. It's easy to say that. The real challenge is going to come when you are by yourself. When you're by yourself, we're going to see how strong that talk is. But that's where momentum comes in. Unfortunately for him, he fell like all of us do along the path, and he feels really bad about it. Now he's finding himself in a rut. So I'm telling him, you should chase that momentum, because like I said, that momentum is going to bring a life. It's going to have a life of itself after a while. And that's going to be something that you can draw upon to push you forward, to push you through when you find yourself by yourself in those moments where that weakness is knocking at that door, and it's just you by yourself, man. Like Fat Joe said, you by yourself. When he saw Roy Jones behind the curtain, Roy Jones was like, yo, you by yourself, brother. No terror squad, nothing. So it's interesting too, because yeah, we're chasing momentum on the never-ending quest of self-improvement. And it's funny because it's like we're always running away from this existential feeling where you feel like you have to prove yourself over and over and over. And you basically have to prove to yourself that you're not a piece of shit. And we all feel like that. We all feel like that. Like me, for example, I know I've had, everyone has a certain amount of accomplishments in their life that they look back on and they say, oh, that was great. And they still try to draw from that, like people that peaked in high school or something like that. Like for me, when I did really well in the academy and I was the best in the class, I'll find myself being like, yo, I did good. I was number one in the class. I was the only one from out of state. And I was a top law enforcement guy in the class. Okay, that was four or 5 years ago now, right? So, like I said, we find ourselves having to prove ourselves over and over and over, because it's a never-ending game. Because if I was to just derive my value based off what I did 5 years ago, people will look at you like, okay, that was 5 years ago, you're a joke. What about now? What about now? So that's where, like I said, that's where momentum comes in. That's where chase momentum. It's a never-ending journey. String one thing at a time. It's funny because we have these lofty goals, like my boy, for example, 30-day goals, whatever goals that we set out far in the future. And it's just like David Goggins said, when he was in Hell Week, he didn't look at, man, I can't wait till Friday comes. It's like, I'm just going to get through this literally one moment at a time, because the amount of stress that being in those waves, holding those logs, puts you under. Any moment of forward future thinking is like a crack in the armor, where that weakness is going to come in and be like, I can't do that long. I can't do this that long. So it's one moment at a time. Sometimes you're going to be like, oh, this is light. Other times you're going to be like, damn, this is hard. This is hard. But if you have that momentum behind you, it's going to push you in that direction that, yeah, it's a little hard, but I've been doing this for X amount of days now, so what's another day? All I got to do is just make it to tomorrow. Next thing you know, tomorrow's here and the urge is gone. It's interesting because we have our goals and we have the certain things that we want to rely on, and it's important that I saw this thing the other day that said discipline is the future you depending on the current you to keep those promises you made to yourself yesterday. I'll say that again. Discipline is the future you depending on the current you to keep those promises you made to yourself yesterday. Because there is a future you. That future you, that greater you, that better you is relying on you now. Relying on what you do now. So in that case, when you think about the future, see, that's a healthy way to think about the future, where you think about yourself in the future. Who am I going to be? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to aim for? You can use that as a target post, and that's going to orient your actions and that might give you that little nudge to push you in that right direction. Go a little stronger, go a little harder, go a little longer. That's what she said. You feel me? She did say that. And there isn't anything more adventurous than truth. What's up, man? This is one of my wolf pack, man. Say hi to my people, man. This is my audience.
You last seen you?
I'm gonna put it up. Yeah, I'm gonna put it up.
You gonna put it up?
Yeah. He's swole. This is my guy, man. Don't you mess with him, you mess with me. You mess with me, you mess with him. There's a lot of gap in that shirt, but he'll be all right. So, when you start to take your life a little bit more seriously, incorporate a little bit more discipline, interesting things start to happen, right? I saw this thing, not really saw, I'm actually living this thing where once you start to live a fulfilled life in terms of understanding that I'm fulfilled now, like I want to touch that fulfillment now. I'm living a life where I'm grateful. I'm doing a lot of things. I'm progressing. I'm basically finding what I can be grateful for now, which is filling me up, which is me living a fulfilled life. When I move from that place, life just opens up. It's like life starts to lead you into an adventure. Life starts to bring you into various little adventures, that funny story, that are related to the side quests that you initially put off. You know? Life is funny like that. When you come from that space of like, actually I'm good, you know, I'm fulfilled now. It's like what you asked for, the doors start getting knocked down left and right. So it's important for you to live a truthful life. It's important for you to find out what your truth is and stay true to that, and don't compromise that when you move forward on your path. Jordan Peterson is a perfect example. He said that when he was going for his doctorate, a lot of the clinical psychologists that he was trying to learn under were saying, dude, you got to stay away from what your interests are, because his interests were thinkers like Carl Jung and Freud, Nietzsche, and he was linking them with religious narratives, like religious stories, and he was finding the deeper psychological narratives and applying them to clinical psychology. And they were like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Just stick to the science. He was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stick to what's true to myself. Guess what happened? His life opens up, leads him to an adventure, and he gets picked up by Harvard. So he said something great. He was like, do not compromise your truth, because that way you won't get what you don't want. You won't get what you don't want if you're staying true to your values and what's true to you. And that's a brilliant point. Don't compromise your values when it comes to the path, no matter how long the path is, because that way you don't get what you don't want. You won't get what you don't want. So I don't want to make this video too long. Chase momentum, chase momentum, chase momentum. Get some days behind you and then go from there. So, like I always say, guys, if you got anything from this video, make sure to share, comment, like, subscribe. It's Art Basel down here in Miami, South Florida. So I'm enjoying myself. I hope you guys are enjoying yourself too. The moon will begin to rise next week. So I don't know whenever you're watching this, but the energy is going to start rising again. So utilize it to manifest, focus, use that momentum. So, like I always say, guys, remember, a greater perspective can lead to a greater connection. Peace.
All of a sudden I feel better with time. I know that I do believe it, baby. Reasons to seasons, maybe. I wish that we could live like fuck 9 to 5.